Hi, I'm Lazze and I'm teaching people in metal shaping, and I'm back here on YouTube with tips and tricks about an interior trim this time, and I think it's very interesting to see that. And it was actually in my last class I had one person that would like to do a trim piece for a 37 Chevy convertible, and I never made one before, so they asked me, can we do this? And I said, let me think about it a little bit. And so I did, and we made a sample, and it came out really nice. So I would like to show that with you today. So this is the sample that I made. We made a sample for them on the class, and I don't have the original 37 Chevy convertible trim piece that goes up on the top of the door where you actually lay your arm. I don't have that one, so yesterday I made another sample so I could do another one here on YouTube. But here you can see the profile here, and you can see that it's round, and I'm going to do that with English wheel and a rubber band. And then I'm going to bend both those edges 180 degrees. And then the last thing I did, I took the tool that we had in the earlier video, and I made those dimples there. So for a screw like this, and it looks very professional. So I think this video will be very helpful for you. So because it's a trim piece, and it's a little difficult to make a small piece like this. And we're going to use the bead roller and the English wheel, and I'm going to start make one. So I'm over here at the English wheel, and I'm going to use the rubber band on the English wheel to make this curve on this piece first. That's the main thing to do. Because this piece is so narrow that I find out, and here's a good trick for you, that I can start with a little bigger piece, and I can roll this side of this one here with a rubber band to get that right shape, probably a little more than half of this width of this. And then I can go over to the bead roller and bend one side of this edge 180 degrees. And when I do that, I have a little bigger piece to hold on. So it helps me to do the first one. And then I can trim it down to the size I want plus the flange. And then I can do the second bend in the bead roller. That helps me a little to start with a little bigger panel. So let's roll this one with the rubber band. So if you don't know about the rubber band makes the panel to bend 2 dimensions. So the lower wheel pushing up the sheet in the soft rubber, so it will be like a sheet metal brake. But I have other videos about that on YouTube as well. So I need to set the pressure a little bit. If the rubber band comes off, then I can move that. And I also turn it around. I don't wheeling the full length. So you're creating the shape in the middle of that trim piece that we're going to make. We creating that curve first. And it's actually better to do many passes with a lower pressure with a rubber band instead of doing it with high pressure and then just a few passes. So let me take a look and see where we are on the curve. Looks like it's pretty close. Looks like they are pretty parallel there. So I think I can leave it like that, and we can go over to the bead roller and I can start bend the edge. So I'm over here at the bead roller, and the dies that I'm going to use here is 2 flat dies, one as a spacer there, and then we're going to use one of the flame dies as a guide, and that is the best way. This is flat, and I might be able to do this with a guide in the bead roller, but if this takes a shape that is going to be a little curved, then it will be hard to hold it against the guide. So I prefer to use this as a guide, and I can go the same all the way. So that's what I'm going to use. And then on the top, I'm going to use a little radius die. And every time I change the dies in the bead roller, I need to adjust this shaft and set that so we got the right width of the flange. So I have set this one, so it's probably about 3/8. I don't want it to be too narrow flange, because then it will be hard to fold it over. So I start with this and run this one time, and I can set this so it's touching, and then I go a quarter turn more. That will be a good pressure, and I leave it for that all the way. And of course I'm going to have the radius here, so I'm going to bend that part there. And you can see where I pay attention there, and it's important that I hold it there all the time. Immediately when I take my eyes off from that point, I'm going to lose it and go away from the guide. If I see for some reason now after the first time that this is a little too narrow or too big, then I can move the shaft. And I think this is a little narrow, so let me move the shaft out maybe 1-2 millimeter. And I can do that because it's so early in this bending, so I can do that and it will not affect anything. Yeah, this looks a little bigger flange, so I like that better. So don't fight with the machine. The machine do a great job, and you can just focus on that point down there to the guide. So that's what it looks like now, and before I'm going to bend the other side, I would like to bend this more 180 degrees, so I need to change the die on the bottom to do that, and then I can flip it back to when we do the other side. So I changed the bottom die on the bottom shaft to a die that is 55 degrees. That means that before we had a flat die here and we could bend it to 90, but with this die we can bend it maybe 45 degrees more, and that really helps to get this piece over to more 180 degrees. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm standing here so I can see this line and see the die, because I don't have a guide this time, so I need to do this manual and just trust my eyes. So the best is probably to start the machine and let it go as soon as I have a good run. And be very steady with your hands when you do something like that. And I lifted it up a little bit more. What I do also now when I'm so close, I'm forcing it a little this way, so it actually the die tried to stay on the panel instead of going out. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. And as I said before, if this flange is, if I prefer to have it a little bigger just because it's easier to bend it, then I can always grind this flange down if I want it to be more narrow in the end after everything is done. I can always grind that off. So let's mark this out now and then trim it and then do the other side. So here's what I have done. I have cut this edge off. Maybe it was 3/4 inch that I cut off. And I did that with electrical Makita shear. After I have done that, I took it to the belt grinder and grinded the edge, because this is very important that this edge is straight now. If it's not straight, so it's go a little wavy, when I go to the guy there, we're going to end up, after we have bent it in the bead roller, we're going to end up with different width of this, and we don't want that. So this is very important that you grind this so this is straight. So let's bend this in the bead roller now. So this is a narrow piece now, so it is a little difficult for me to bend it, but that's the reason why I bent the first one with a wider piece. So let's run this now, and I set the pressure so it's touching, and then I go a 1/4 turn more, so it makes a little increase in the metal, and it will bend it a little easier that way. So as soon as it comes out there, then I can put my whole hand on the backside there, and I'm a little stronger to bend it up. The best thing is to do this and actually do it in several steps up to 90, then you get less damage. So it's actually a very smooth bend. I love my bead roller, it's one of my best friends. So let's go one more time and go all the way up to, so it's touching the upper die. So that's what it looks like now. So now we need to change the die and bend it even more. So I switched the die to the 55 degrees again, so we can bend this more. So now I need to stand behind it so I can see where that is. So now it's even a little harder to keep track, go in the same track as I did before. And I need to be consistent with that. Let's bend it one more time. So that's what it looks like there. So now I need to do one little more thing that I can't do in the bead roller, at least not for now. But maybe in the future I can find a die combination so I can bend it a little more. So I figured out how to do it. We took a few minutes and we tested it, and it didn't come out right, and then we did a different die and we tested that and it came out right. So here you can see that we did a little sample here, and that's what I wanted. You can see that it's more bent here. That's the little test piece that I did. So now I'm going to show you the dies that I'm used for that, and then we can continue bend this the whole length on both sides. So I changed the die to a polyurethane wheel. This is a hard polyurethane wheel that is geometer 90, but it still will be soft on this piece that I'm going to use down to the polyurethane wheel. And then I'm using a flat one on the top, and I'm going to run that. And the thing here is it's going to be consistent pressure all the way. And I like that. The other test piece that I showed you in the beginning, I used the sandbag and I hammered this flange down, and it came out nice, but it really helps to have consistent pressure between, so I got the bend the same. So let's run this one. So there is, the pressure is a little too little, so let's find out what pressure I should use, because the lower wheel is a little softer too. So it was just the last part that I missed a little bit there. So let me continue that one. There we go. Now you can see the difference between those two. So this one works out really good. So let's do the other side. I think I need to do it in 2 steps. It seems like if it's too much. And I think it's also very important that I keep this in this part here in level. If I do this, then it doesn't work. I need to hold it like that. So here you can actually see after the polyurethane wheel on the sides. So you can see it did a little different. You have almost like a stripe in the center. So that works out really, really good instead of doing it with a hammer and a dolly. So I'm over here at the working table. I call it the working table. The sandbag is a really good table to work with your pieces. It forms, you don't get any marks or anything from it. So I'm going to do a thing here on this sandbag. And if I hold the panel like this, you should be able to see the curve that we have here. And that is just something that happened after we have done it with a rubber band in English wheel and then bent the flanges in the bead roller. So if that is a curve that is okay, that you maybe want, then it's okay. But if you want this to be more straight, then we need to straighten this up. And there's no way that I can do it with tools, but this is actually so soft, so I can take it to the sandbag and I can push this down. So if I do that, you can see immediately that this one is a little more straight now. So if you look on that edge there now, you can see after just pushing it down to the sandbag a little bit, it made it more straight. If this is a piece for the 37 Chevy convertible, then this one actually had a little more curve to it in one area. Then I can continue bend this. So I'm just doing this as a sample for you, so you can see. And now you can see that we actually have more curve to it than straight. So now it's the opposite curve. So you can modify the shape of this one just with pushing it. But here's the trick. When you make this, you may be making it longer, so you have something to push it down with, and then you can trim down, cut it down to the length you want, so you're just keeping that part that you needed. So look long ways on this edge so you can see what the curve is like. You can also take a 3/4 inch strip of 18 gauge and you can make that so you can actually bend it after that template. That's a good thing. But also remember, when you push something like this down, use gloves because those edges can be sharp. So use gloves or put a rag over here when you're bending this down. And do little by little so you don't get a kink. Do little by little and so it go the right direction. It's always best to sneak up on things instead of doing too much and try to fix it. So I'm going to show you how to do that little dimple there. And we're going to use the same tool that we use in the hammer fab video. I needed to modify the tool a little bit here. So I have a little radius on it because it needs to fit this curve. If this tool is 100% flat, then it will be marks on the side here, and I don't want that. So I drill one hole, put that one in there, and then I put that one on there, and here we go. There we go. Very simple. And release the pressure there and take this off. And here it is. It's done. It looks very professional. And this is a piece that you can have it chromed, or you probably could make it in copper too and chrome that piece, but copper is a little softer. So maybe this would be easier to use it in, made it in steel and have it chromed. So this was the tips and tricks for today, and hopefully I can come up with some other ideas how to make trim pieces in the future. If you want more information, you can go to www.lazzemetalshaping.com for my information about classes or my other products. Thank you for watching.